Alright, so after that Texans video, figured let's have a more positive video and want to do a review. And the review I'm talking about is a book I just got finished reading today. And that book is Crisis on Infinite Earths, written by Marv Wolfman and George Perez. So we're talking comics here. Been meaning to do a video like this before, so I figured, why not? Crank out this video just before I go to bed for work. And Crisis on Infinite Earths, this was in 1985, so 10 years before I was born. And the background for this is that DC prior to this, DC had created a multiverse in 1961. You got to go all the way back to 1961. Flash 123, The Flash of Two Worlds. And that story, you had Barry Allen meet Jay Garrick. And this is where they established Earth 1 and Earth 2. Where Earth 2 was the stories that you read with Jay Garrick in regards to like World War II. And World War II with the Justice Society and all, as well as like Green Lantern, Alan Scott. And Earth 1 was where you had Barry Allen, the Flash, and Hal Jordan's Green Lantern. Now, over time, it started off with those two. Then you had Earth 3, where you introduced the Crime Syndicate, and that was established in the Justice League of America, Gardner Fox's run, which I have the entire run of Gardner Fox there in my storage tub in my closet. Pretty good, which is a pretty good run. And over time, they started creating Earth S, which is like which is the Marvel family. Well, now they're known as the Shazam family. You can't call themselves the Marvel family because they gave up the rights to the Captain Marvel name over to Marvel 8 years ago. But over time, there began to become too many Earths, and DC had gotten in over its head with the multiverse, with creating this multiverse. So, 1985, Marv Wolfman and George Perez wound up writing Crisis on Infinite Earths, and to remedy the situation. And Crisis on Infinite Earths, it's a simple story, and it gets what it needs, and it accomplishes the task that needs to be done, which is to wipe away the multiverse and get a clean slate. So the story, and the way they craft the story was they had slowly started building up when they introduced the Monitor, and I think it was issue of New Teen Titans. I can't, not sure on that. But Monitor had appeared before them. But the story in Crisis on Infinite Earths is that the multiverse is dying, and they need to round up all the heroes of the multiverse to save it. And the story ended up starting off where you have the character known as Pariah, where he was a scientist who he was a revered scientist in his world, and people were showering with praise with a lot of these discoveries he's made. He's found cure to diseases, but he had more ambitions, and one of his ambitions was to discover the origin of creation. And a lot of people warned him against it. It's like, no, don't do it. But he didn't listen. He let his ambitions get the best of him, and as a result, he witnessed the origin of creation, and it wound up resulting in the destruction of the multiverse. Winds up in the slow destruction of the multiverse, and he has to witness every Earth being destroyed. So the story started off where Earth 3 is destroyed. You got the Crime Syndicate trying their best to stop their Earth from being destroyed, but it's to no avail. And you got Lex Luthor of Earth 3 with Lois Lane, because they're married in that Earth, and they send their son Alexander. and he winds up getting stranded on Earth 1. But eventually, Monitor takes him in, and the Monitor discovers that he's imbued with both positive matter and antimatter. And this winds up being an integral part of the story later on, where it being imbued with both versions of matter allows him to open up portals from the positive matter to the antimatter universe. But Anti-Monitor's plan is that he's trying to destroy the multiverse. That way, all there is the antimatter universe. So, Monitor, he tries to gather Earth's greatest heroes from across the multiverse, and he succeeds in that. And he does it through Lila, aka Harbinger. Now, what happens with Harbinger is, along the way, as she's gathering up Earth's greatest heroes, one of Anti-Monitor's shadow demons takes possession of one part of her, and it causes her and corrupts her, and it causes her to eventually kill the Monitor, and she's distraught over it, and she kind of goes, but she tries to make amends by helping Alexander Luthor. But what she didn't know was, what she later found out in some pre-recorded message from the Monitor, was that her killing him was a part of his plan, because he knew that Anti-Monitor was making moves to destroy where each Earth was getting destroyed, the Anti-Monitor would get stronger and the Monitor would get weaker. So Monitor had these machines, had like this special machine where it could save what's left of the Earths, what's left of the multiverse. And this machine would wind up merging Earths 1 and 2 together. And the frequency vibrations that separated Earths 1 and 2 just stopped, and they had to find a way to stop Monitor. That way they could finally stop Earth 1 and 2 merging, although that doesn't work. Eventually, Earths 1 and 2 merge into one single Earth, and a lot of Earth 2 gets forgotten about. And there are major character deaths in this storyline. There's actually 2. There was 3, but then you find out the third major character actually does not die, but they get Benjamin Buttoned. And the first major death in this story is Supergirl, where she's shown to be on par with the Anti-Monitor. Well, not on par with the Anti-Monitor, but she's shown that she can do damage to the Anti-Monitor. And back then there was this question of who was stronger between her and Superman. Crisis on Infinite Earths answers the question: Supergirl is stronger. And then the second major character death is Barry Allen. Although this kind of gets rectified when you go into like Infinite Crisis. Well, not so much Infinite Crisis, but more so Final Crisis. But when I read those stories and review them, I'll go into that. But right now we're talking the original Crisis. So those 2 die, and this sets the stage for Wally West to become the actual Flash, which was unheard of, because back then no one thought of the idea of a sidekick taking up his hero's mantle. But what happened? But when Dr. Light, the tokenized Dr. Light, absorbs solar radiation, a lot of solar radiation, it slowly weakens the Anti-Monitor, and the heroes are able to start damaging the Monitor, and most of them get out and go back to the Earth, except for Earth 2 Superman, as well as Alexander Luthor and Superboy Prime. They wind up defeating Anti-Monitor, although And what happens was Superman of Earth 2, he thought Lois had died, but then it was revealed that Alexander Luthor at the last minute took Lois Lane, Earth 2, and took him to the Paradise Dimension, which is where they all wind up going. Now, the only criticisms I would have Crisis on Infinite Earths is the dialogue at times is a bit cheesy, but it's 1985. So at the time, some of the dialogue kind of gets a little bit heavy-handed, and they do overdo it with the narration a little bit. But other than that, strong writing from Marv Wolfman. George Perez as an artist is great, but also the third character, Wonder Woman. At first she died. It appeared she died, but at the end it's revealed that when she got hit with the anti-monitor beam, she wound up reverse aging like Benjamin Button. Although, granted, this was way before the Curious Case of Benjamin Button movie. So, but it's giving her a reboot, which she got rebooted under George Perez. Superman went back to being the last son of Krypton and got a new origin from John Byrne. And then, of course, Batman, you already know. Dark Knight Returns happened, and DC went to Frank Miller to give Batman a new origin story. So, Crisis on Infinite Earths, it does what it came to accomplish, and providing a fresh slate and giving a new jumping on point for new readers. And overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give this book an 8.5 out of 10. Very strong book, great recommendation, and not a bad place to start for DC continuity. So that was my Crisis on Infinite Earths review, and I'll catch you guys later.